Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I'm John McCabe, co-host of the Channel Surfers, and I'm joined as always by my very good friend and co-host Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey John, I'm doing great, man. Got a little dressed up here for the end of year, kind of holiday
Yes,
season, so to speak.
very
So
festive. We wanted to, kind of do a festive theme today, and you know, we've been doing this for a year, and we wanted to come up with a year-end review, and we thought, like a 12 days of Christmas theme would be great. So today we're going to count down the top 12 podcasts that we did this year and just review them with you and, kind of go back and reminisce and talk about some of these shows because they still stick in my mind. I mean, there are a few on this list that I like reference all the time to people who want to, get into the show. So I think we have a very powerful list here to talk about. Before we kick off, do you have anything to mention to the audience or anything you want to say for the holidays?
well, first of all, man, it's yeah. Well, no, I mean, well, the outfit came out of I was tired of the ugly sweater contests or ugly sweater events that you would go to, right? Because they're hot, they're itchy. So I did that, hey, that clickbait thing, and I happened to click on, and I think it's my wife calls it Chinese silk, but it's not hot, right? So you get to wear it. It looks like a sweater. This one's more like a suit jacket.
It looks like a suit jacket. Yeah, yeah.
Like a Santa, if I set up, it's like a Santa smoking jacket kind of thing.
That's an all-in-one. That's an all-in-one
Yeah,
outfit. It looks like
no,
the breakaway uniforms for basketball players. You go rip it off.
so yeah, it goes well. Anyway, just kind of comes back to the theme we were talking about doing. Hey, let's kind of review. I think we banged out like 44, 45 episodes this
Yeah,
year, which is, I mean, I'm beside myself, right? This has been an amazing experience.
yeah, for sure.
Doing this, with you has been great. And you and I were talking a little bit last week. Feeding off of each other has been really invigorating, and I'm always about learning and doing new things. And it's just kind of like there's this, I'm pushing you, you're pushing me, kind of thing. But
Mhm.
what really kind of I guess kind of made me kind of pause was just how much I've been able to expand myself into other areas where, I'm always about, like I said, always about learning, but we've talked to so many different people, gotten so many different perspectives. I never realized or thought that us doing this would turn into this type of an approach, but
No,
it's been very, very informative for me. I feel like I've grown a lot.
yeah,
Um, and I'm humbled by a lot of the people that we've had the chance to talk to because of their journeys, what they've been able to do. And I think, going through this top 12 or the 12 days of Christmas, top 12 episodes, so to speak, I really think it'll kind of highlight that because there were some general themes that kind of came out of this year with our shows where we kept kind of coming back and even the conversations with people. So I thought that
yeah.
was just amazing.
And one thing I took away from this year, and it actually kind of hit me just recently. One of our listeners sent this amazing note. They were traveling across the country, and they binge listened to us. And I'm going to mention her name, Catherine Kaywood. Thank you for reaching out. Catherine is
Yeah.
an strategic alliances manager for a company called Journey, and her note was it hit a chord because it highlighted what we're trying to do here. We're trying to share what we've done in our careers with others to help them maybe find that spot or find that answer to a question that they have that hasn't been able, to be answered. And her response and note was just so poignant, and I thank you for that. But with that, I mean, I think highlighting the season is really appropriate because we have 12 great shows that we counted down. I mean, look, I think every one of the shows was awesome. There were so many great guests. There's so many great topics. Obviously AI is one of our favorite topics, and there's a lot of AI, and there'll be a lot more AI. But we had so many great topics to talk about, and if you're ready, let's get into it because I want to count down. We're going to go 1 to 12, and I think the first show is probably one of our most important shows. And whenever you talk to somebody who's listening to our podcast, they say the first show was one of our best. And basically, we just kind of set the ground rules there. And we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to do it. We just sat down and talked for an hour about why we were doing this to help people. And it was real and raw. And we learned a lot from that because we were able to tweak the timing and the scripting and everything that we do with the show. So, what are your thoughts on the first show?
Well, I've had comments from a lot of different people, mostly my family. My daughter made it. She told me it was our best episode. So I don't want to call her out, but it is funny because when I go back and I even listen to it, because I've listened to it like 3 times, to your point, it was very raw, not scripted. We just kind of, it was kind of like we just jumped into the deep end of the pool and just started kind of flailing, so to speak. But I do think it set the tone for me at least, or for us, I should say. But I know for me, it was, I wanted to be able to share experiences and knowledge that we've had and things that we've done and perspectives on what's going on. And that evolved into having conversations with people and getting their perspectives, which kind of either confirmed things that you and I had been doing in our career, not realizing it. But, you just kind of started to do it because it was the way to get things done. And then you realize later, wow, that was part of Nearbound. Like reading that book was another driver to do this show, in my opinion.
That was a big driver for this show. Big driver.
Right. But understanding like, wow, man, this is this is actually what helped shape my career. And I was following a process, procedure, or methodology and didn't even realize it a lot of times. And it just kind of came out of doing the work, right? Which I know I tell people all the time, so you just got to go do the work, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you got to go try to figure it out. And there's not always going to be an answer. The podcast was our way of saying, hey, we're going to help give you some clues and maybe give you some direction or give you some perspective on where you could probably go and start to lean in on things to get better and be better.
Yeah. So the first show really is such an important foundational piece of what we became in 2025 with this show. And who would have thought, doing this in January last year, we'd do 45 shows. And I think we kind of were like our hair on fire doing this because we didn't know enough of what we're not expert podcasters here. We're just guys, and it was just
I had
like
a full head of hair when we started, John. Full head of hair, man. It was
yeah. And it just becomes something that's affecting people's the way they do things, which is really important to me. So yes, I think the first show, number one, can't deny it. It's always got to be there, right? I think number two, obviously, a real foundational piece of why we are doing the show, and that's the Nearbound Who economy. And that was our interview with Jared Fuller. And that was kind of a big win for us at the time because I think he was our first or second guest. And I took a shot knowing him in the past to get him to be on the show. And he accepted and he was so gracious. And the information he shared was just unbelievable. And that is definitely in my top 5 favorite shows of all time, just because of how influential he was in this whole Nearbound methodology.
Yeah. But, and by the way, my takeaway from that show, I hope I still get it right. It was the 3 C's, right? Courage, conviction, and curiosity. Not in that order. Well, curiosity, courage, conviction, but, always be curious. And coming back to the learning piece, right? I first of all, that was an amazing kind of win to your point. I was, again, very humbled. You listen to what he's been able to do and what he's been through and realizing that I was leveraging Nearbound philosophy and methodology for probably almost 18 years of my career was just mind blowing to me. Right. And then people look at you like, I'm serious. Like that just, when you understand that there is a process behind something, but I thought he was great. He was very humble, very generous with his time. Great show, great takeaways. In fact, I even made we joke around playing around with the AI, right? I made an infographic from that show. And what I was hoping to do originally was kind of post some stuff for each one of these shows, which I still will probably do. But the message that came out of that show from him was just, was very foundational for people that are trying to either figure out how to work in the channel, build a channel, or
Mhm.
take their channel to the next level, I should say.
I mean, that book is such like foundational groundwork for building successful partner, you know, programs, ecosystems, because it shows you how to
Yeah.
tie every aspect of a company into the channel and not silo it. And that's where partnerships fail, because they get siloed off, and there's measurements that are unobtainable measurements that don't get fulfilled, that cause programs to kind of go into the tank, right? And I
Yep.
think with Nearbound, you could follow a plan that gets you kind of everybody entwined into the channel, and everybody should be, a partner to you internally and externally.
Yeah.
I just
I mean,
read
the big
something recently where partner marketing is showing more value than advertising for companies, and regular marketing advertising. Partner marketing is a better value because it's more concentrated, and can help you get to the customer quicker. Nearbound, right? So
Yep.
I feel that book is it's a must read for anyone who's in the channel. And I hope our listeners have done that, because it's something we talk about. I think it must be talked about on every show that we've recorded.
And you can even get the go to Amazon. You can even listen to the book. I mean,
Yeah.
people that I've referred, they told me they listen to it.
Yep.
But to your point, takeaway, right? Right. It's who before how. It's influences access. Finding
Yeah.
people that have the influence, right? So the who before how influences access, and revenue is not source. It's closed, right? Because Nearbound is a system, not a slogan, kind of thing.
Right.
So
Right.
I that was the other thing when I that last statement. It's not a slogan. It's a system. I think that's what people, when they read it, they think, oh well, that's something we're gonna have to figure out and build, and
Yeah.
it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
it's a way that you interact all the time. To your point, so
Correct. Yes, that was a big one, big win early on for us to get a guest like Jared Fuller on the show. And then I think a really huge win is our number 3 show, and that was the one with Jay McBain, Channel's Future.
oh,
And another person I know through partnership leaders, and reached out, and he was so amazing to offer his time. And first guest that actually put on a Hawaiian shirt for us, which was amazing also. Um, but that show, I mean, wow, uh, can't even explain how huge it was to have Jay McBain on the show. And we talk, and we're in some different groups now, and Jay McBain is intertwined with all these groups and these founders, and like he's a big part of the channel community. And we had him as a guest, and he was an amazing guest. And the stats, like, you were amazed at some of the stats that he ripped off. And
oh my god, so amazed, so
yeah,
amazed.
yeah, multi-threaded partner types, non-transactors matter, time to evolve metrics, some of the really important things that he highlighted. And his job is like analyzing and going and reporting, and like he has so much detail in his brain, and he was just clicking out all this incredible information on channel, and how to how it's changing. AI was a big part of that was a real trigger point for AI for us. I think we've caught fire after that one, because of what he was saying, how it's going to be a trillion dollar
Six
business.
trillion,
Yeah, $6
six
trillion
trillion in 10
year. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just like it's mind blowing. But to your point, like it lit a fire. I mean, he's almost the channel Wikipedia of data, right? He was just kind of throwing data out there, constant data points, and he's so immersed in it.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is if you can get past the hype of the numbers and actually then look at it, you can actually start to see what the path is, And the other thing that came out of that for me was not just the numbers about AI, the $6 trillion, and how it's going to eclipse the entire industry in that 10-year period, but it was the ecosystem play, right? Because you and I both talked about that. I mean, that was a big play for me for a long time, for probably a good 14 years of my career. as I was building it, I was playing around with the ecosystem because I saw that as a value add, right? So between that and Nearbound, it just it just gave me a lot more clarity about things, which was amazing. So,
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
great call out, man. Great opportunity, great person. I really, you and I think talked about this, right? We want to get him back in 26 just to kind of do
Sure.
a what was then and this is now kind of show to see where things have grown and changed in the past year.
And Jay, if you're listening right now, don't forget to put us on your top 100 podcast list, please. So
Just
yeah,
saying.
so top 3 already. Can't they're like the Mount Rushmore of our shows so far. Jared, Jay, and then
Number 4.
number 4, which tell you that show was amazing for a number of reasons. It was the show with Scott Struble. First of all, Scott's company reached out to us to be on our show, which was pretty amazing. And we had a pre-call with Scott to kind of go over the format and talk to him. And during that pre-call, I think we all became best friends, right? I mean, he was amazing.
We became friends.
I think
We,
I think
we made bunk beds. We had all this room for activity. Sorry.
yeah. But I mean, the Rough Seas Strong Teams of Scott Struble show, it was episode 37.
Yep.
Wow. And the adversity builds loyalty. His whole mentality is about leadership and channel and how to guide a team and how to grow it and make it successful. And adversity builds loyalty. I like that. Let partners shape the strategy. Don't dictate to the partners. Let them help you kind of build the strategy with them so that you can be successful. And then the really big takeaway, which I'm a firm believer in, is celebrate partner wins. It's always, that's something that they appreciate and it makes them feel good. And you really want partners feeling good so they keep doing business with you, right? If they don't feel good about you, they're not going to be doing business with you. They're going to walk away.
Well, it's your point. It's you got to recognize their involvement, right? I mean, you recognize the win that you got with that partner. I mean, that's the part that's the part that's going to help you grow, right? Because you're acknowledging the relationship, you're acknowledging the effort and the work that they put in, and their contribution to it. And I think that it falls short, or at least for a long time it had, where you would work with a partner, right? And I think Scott he's been around the block. I mean, he talked about his early days in HP, and as he kind of grew through, and and like you said, we became best friends because we started realizing there was so much synergy in not just what he has done, but how he has done what he has done. And it's a lot of the same work ethic and business persona that we have applied to what we do.
Yeah.
So getting his message out, I think, is great. In fact, I follow his he does a weekly leadership. My gosh, my mind is blank.
Yeah, leadership matters. Yeah, and he's got a new book coming out too. He's got a brand new book coming out.
Yeah. Actually, I did see that. So I'll have to have him back.
I think it's called Leadership Matters, if I'm not mistaken. It's not the long Rough Seas, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, like the first book was a really tongue twisting title, but this one's simpler. And I think he posted something about it on LinkedIn recently. Just coming out, just being published. Yeah, he's a writer.
Yeah. Well, he said,
I think the great thing about Scott was, after the show, we've actually communicated with him, and we've bounced ideas off of him. He's bounced ideas off of us. We have a relationship with him now, which is, I think it's important to me because he's someone I think is very influential, and just a really great person. Real great person to be associated with.
I think that. Look, that's interesting enough. I think there's going to be an undertone or a theme as we go through this, not just a theme about AI and jobs and everything, but almost everybody we've had on, actually everybody we've had on is a good person. They're just good people. Yeah. And they've all have their own process, their own journey, their own struggles. And, learning that, I think, as people start to hear this, because I've listened to a lot of different podcasts, you start to make that connection, like, what, like, I'm not alone. Like, I'm not the only one who's gone through some of this. And Scott, with his first book and now the second one, is sharing some of these life journeys and these life lessons so that other people don't have to go through as much of the turbulence to get to where he is or what he has been able to accomplish.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, thank you, Scott. Thank you for
thank you.
That was, wow, one of the best of the year for me, like just interview wise and relationship wise. He was amazing. So, all
That
right.
was
So number
awesome, man.
five on our list is another real number five is another great guest that we kind of I actually was reaching out to this guy on LinkedIn about something else, and I said, hey, he'd make a great guest, and that's Vaughn Mordecai from Mind Matrix. He was just such
That
a
was a good.
great guest from like a personality and conversation standpoint. He really enjoyed it. He promoted our show afterwards, and we got a lot of
We could have
residual.
talked. We could have talked for 2 hours, Sam. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like that was such a very cool, relaxed conversation. Like
yeah,
I just and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it's like it just it was one of those where like, oh crap, man, like we've got it, we got to end this, like we got to tie this off, we got to put a bow on this thing,
yeah.
but no, super super knowledgeable, a lot of
And
great takeaways.
yeah, like talk pipeline velocity and impact. Don't silo revenue and partner plans, which is a common theme we heard with who? Jared Fuller. Be the steady hand when chaos hits. I love that. Don't overreact. Listen, absorb, and kind of figure out how to maneuver. Right.
Yep.
Vaughn was such a cool cat. He was just like didn't seem like anything rocked him. Right. And he actually writes a really nice blog post, and he's pretty influential on LinkedIn. And he does a lot of interviews, but I think his take on partnerships, and he's a CRO, so it's important for him to have a channel strategy because it helps him grow his revenue. And we asked him like, because what's the shelf life of a CRO is like 18 months. I think we asked him like, what do how do you feel about a program that doesn't work? Like, how do you react to that? And he's like, it has to work, right? And if I'm running the sales organization, I want that to work for me. And he's more channel CRO than anyone that I've talked to in a long time. And he really had a very good take on it. But he also is selling a channel type product, Mind Matrix, a PRM solution. So it's important for him to understand channel and be there. But
Interesting things that we could look to do with him down the road with the whole, with Mind Matrix and stuff.
yeah,
But no, like you said, it's great when you have these conversations, and like I said, that whole theme, we'll bring it up when we get to a couple others where we would wrap up, and it was like, wow, that actually went really quick. Like this was really, I forgot I was even on a podcast kind of thing,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Me too.
But my takeaway from him was that alignment, to your point, right? The alignment between what you're doing in the channel with the CRO, and if the average CRO is 16 to 18 months because they're being driven and the expectations are so high, you've got to make sure that you've got the alignment across the board, or else you're not going to succeed. And that creates a lot of challenges, because you see it happening today, which will be in our next thing, which is the whole job market shift. So making sure that you've got that alignment with the CRO is critical, and getting his perspective, hearing that, I felt that was like awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Vaughn was a great guest. I think moving to number 6.
Let me jump in here. I want to give credit because, so number 6 is a combination of 2 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And I'm again giving all credit to you, because you actually introduced me to Rick prior to us even doing any of this a while ago, probably, gosh, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think you introduced me.
Yeah.
But 6 is going to be 2 things. It's episode 31 and 34, and it's about the job market and the truth in the job market. And one was the episode with him, which I have referred.
Oh, I have too.
It's in double digits. I mean, I'm going to say anywhere from at least 18 to 20 people to go listen to that episode.
Whenever I see a LinkedIn post that somebody lost their job or they're looking for work, I post that link to our show in the comments so they can listen. I think it's so impactful. Like you and I have, we've been in this situation where we've been out of work and trying to find a job, and it's stressful, and we see what's going on in the channel and in our industry, and we were like, we got to talk about this. It seems like there's something out there that could help people. And one show just talked about the state of the job market based on what we see and how we've maneuvered around.
We've been dealing with people that we work with, what they've been dealing with. No, absolutely. But Rick, like I said, that Rick.
Yeah, Rick Sears, by the way. It's Rick Sears. No, like Rick came up
It's
in that episode because I utilized him to help me find work. I upgraded my resume. He gave me tips. He helped me with my LinkedIn profile. Like the things that he helped me with were amazing. But yeah, the two shows like basically talking about the state of the job market and then talking about the state of the job market with Rick. And
yeah,
that show, for anyone who is trying to find a job right now, go and listen to that show. It will help you understand how to get through the ATS systems, how to tweak your resume. We strongly urge you, go talk to Rick. It's worth whatever whatever the
absolutely.
cost of his consultancy. It's the best advice and the best way to get your your resume out there and to help you get into some positions or get into interviews for positions, right? Which is
Yeah,
really what you're trying to do, is get somebody to notice you, right? And that's where Rick helps. And it changes so
yeah,
dramatically. And I think the one thing I laugh about is how he said the average recruiter that is looking at resumes today is 23 years old. And you and I are in our 50s. So they'll look at our resume and say, oh, graduated high school in the 80s, went to college in the 80s and 90s. Like they're like, oh, they're too old or they're too expensive. So he helps you kind of cut the stuff from your resume. It's going to be a flag, and fine tune where he could get you in and get through those systems and get to the interview, right? And
well, let's focus on the job search, the transition. And sorry, the job search transition. You are marketing yourself. You are the product.
yeah,
You are, and the moment you realize that and you double down on that, and that's where I think Rick comes in, because everything you just kind of walk through, like you said, between those two episodes, 31 and then 34, with Rick kind of like really just pulls it together.
yeah,
It's and like you said, I've been referring people to him, and because I'll give people some of the pointers, and I was like, here's what I recommend: do these 5 things, listen to this episode, and then go talk to Rick, because by the time you get to him, you're already going to be like, okay, I need to do this because I got to figure out how to market myself. I need to optimize what my brand is,
yeah. Personal brand matters. Yep.
how I'm projecting that, and how it's being received. And one of the one of the takeaways was, and you need to optimize for AI and for those the readers that are actually going through the resumes, get through the scanning process, because, and I'm going to guess here, but I remember he was saying it's somewhere in the like 75-80% of
Mm-hmm.
resumes don't make it through
No,
that scanner.
no. And
So
one
they're
thing I think, I don't know if he told this to us or I read it somewhere, a lot of job posting these days will put in fake job descriptions or words in the job description that are not real, like Hallapalooza expert. And if you just kind of AI your resume and say, I'm a Hallapalooza expert, they're going to know you weren't reading the job description. You automatically get kicked out, right? And Rick's great at understanding that. He could tweak your resume to the job description. And I think one of the other really important things that he kind of emphasized, embrace AI or get left behind. And that's something he can help you with. And it's also, don't go and apply for 5 jobs a day and think that's enough. You got to be pounding the pavement. One of the great takeaways I had from him originally, that was in our first show on the job market. When I was applying, I would go and just apply for every single job I thought I was qualified for. I would apply, find the hiring manager, the CRO, the chief channel person, whoever is the senior level executive, and I'd send them an email. And I would follow up a couple of days later if they didn't follow up. And I was getting interviews. I was getting in to talk to people. And Rick's advice to me was, that's the way you got to do it. Don't just sit and wait. Like
right.
anything, if you sit and wait, nothing happens. You got
Pull
to,
out all the stops, man. Pull out all the stops. Don't be shy, because if you are, then somebody who isn't is going to get a leg up on you. So
yeah, yeah. But that,
so
I mean, if I had a number 1A, I think that would be number 1A, the Rick Sears show, because I talk about it a lot. And I also I try to
it's
throw it
true.
out there and reference it to people who are out of work, because it's important. And quickly tell everybody the story about the woman you met at that Partnership Leaders event. He was listening to our first story, our first show about it, and then what
I would
happened.
recommend that you listen to the episode to hear the story. But long story short, ran into somebody. We were doing introductions in a group. I introduced who I was. I mentioned that I had a podcast. All 7 people in the group started following the podcast, I believe, or at least 6. And this woman ended up losing her job because of a shifting company, changing leadership, changing CRO, like stuff we just talked about. And reached out to me, I guess it was 2 months later, and to let me know that she had been listening to the podcast and she was listening to that one podcast in particular. And it helped give her kind of focus and direction as she was going through the interview process. And she was listening to it before she went into her final interviews. And anyway, she got the job. She's a director at this company. We still chat a lot through partnership leaders.
I love that.
Super great person. But anyway, I just want to be respectful because I know we wanted to get through our top 12. We're
Yeah,
only
yeah.
halfway through.
All right, so we're at number 7, which number 7's a really personal, great friend of ours. That show was that show was the channel ops matter. I think we talked a lot on our previous shows. This is like episode 33. We talked a lot about like all different aspects of a channel operations. Like I've had channel operations in like maybe 2 of my roles, and it's amazing what channel ops can do for you. And we had Helene Irvin on from Cloudflare, and it's probably one of the most commented shows on LinkedIn when we posted it, because she's got such a tremendous network of influence.
People love Helene, man. They love
Everybody
her.
loves Helene. She's the best. But a couple of things. She's roadmap plus strategy equals success. Friction kills. In operations, you can't have friction. Operations needs to run smooth. Simplicity scales faster than volume. Those are some of the 3 good takeaways. But that show with Helene, and how what she never was an ops person from the core. She kind of got into it by accident, and now she's probably one of the top channel operations executives in the cybersecurity space. And she's just done an amazing job building out an operations program.
And if she's listening, she when I reached out to her and I was like, hey, we're doing this podcast, like I really love to have you on. We're trying to, what am I going to talk about? And I'm like, what you do is so important. It is so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking at, and the next couple things shows we'll talk about is like we were trying to give people broader perspective of what channel is, because most people think of just the 2-dimensional, go and working with partners, the selling piece, but there's so many other things that happen behind the scenes under the covers. And what people like Helene and her team, bring to the table is the underpinnings. It's the infrastructure. It's the ability to go out and do that execution day after day and do it consistently, and do it in a way that you have the tactical way of executing, but you have this strategic program that you're driving. And that's what makes programs successful. That's what makes a company's channel successful, and regardless of your size, figuring out how you, build those blocks so that you can execute. But to your point, I still think it's one of the top watched episodes on YouTube. But I love Helene. I mean, she's super fun, down to earth. And like you said, she's got a great following. But I would highly recommend anybody that's thinking about the operational aspect of their channel is to just take a listen to episode 33. And you're going to get some really good nuggets from what Helene has done and the things that she's driven to help build her program where she's been. So
For sure. Love that show. All right, counting down number 8, cyber surfing with Nick Nicholas, another one of our buddies from the past, and what a colorful guy. I love him. He's got the most amazing stories. He's so focused and complete when he does his job. He knows how to build the relationship with a partner and grow the relationship alliance-wise, reseller-wise, and he's so organized. But he's with a company called
Armis.
OT Asset Management, right? And he basically, some of the key takeaways were OT Asset Intelligence is just a wedge into partners, right? AI in the field scales, co-invention and co-branding help, right? So like those are some of the things he does with his partners. Start to co-brand. I know when I was working with him at FireEye, he built a center of excellence with some of our strategic alliance partners, like GSIs, and that's not an easy thing to do, and he's just a smart guy that can do things like that.
Nah, Nick is an incredibly intellectual guy. He'll say he's not, but he does. It's like the old recycling thing, right? He thinks globally but acts locally, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what that means is he thinks strategically but knows how to go execute to get the things done, and leverages that wherever he's been. I mean, I had, again, in the show we talk about it, how I had the opportunity to meet him. He has a great story which John loves about how he set off a sprinkler system at a New York hotel.
I love that
Great
story.
You got to listen to it. It's one of those where when we started talking to some other people that know Nick, they're like, I knew that story. Holy.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Nick telling that story. I'm like, yeah. So something that he's now proud of, but at the time he wasn't. So, so let's go to number nine.
Number nine. All right. So Ross Kemp, and he was the first in the trenches interview. We want to bring people in the field onto the show to talk about what they're doing, what they're experiencing, what troubles them, what they need answers with. And Ross is a guy I used to work with years ago, and we kind of reacquainted with each other at a partner SCO in February of 2025. And, he's reached out to me occasionally throughout the year to ask questions and get through some things. And I've been happy to help. And, when we talked about the podcast, I thought, God, he'd be a great guest. And you and I were like, we should start doing this like in the trenches thing. And he was the first one we really got involved with that. But, his take, and he's with a company called Black Duck. Every deal is custom. I agree with that. You got to really make sure you're catering to the partner so they can, you want to be easy to work with, and you want to custom that deal for them.
He actually called them snowflakes. I think he called them snowflakes. Yeah. But that has a different meaning for some people, which we're not going to get into right now. So,
yep. Playbooks break down in reality. That's a fact. Playbook's are great in concept. It doesn't always work. Some things break, but you got to be able to react to it too, and kind of like re-engage in it. And then I think I love this point. Executives need field point of views, right? And I think his organization is pretty layered right now. It's like they have a channel chief and they have a VP of channel, and then they have Ross and his team. And, I think Ross lends that POV to the executives, and he's in the field, and he's traveling all over the place, just doing what he has to do to spread the word, right? And just a super smart guy, and just everybody likes him. Ross is just a guy you want to be a friend with.
Dude, he's a genuine guy. I mean, I didn't know him until you introduced him to me, and Ross is just very genuine, right? And mm-hmm. I goes back to an earlier comment. Almost everybody we've had on, in fact, everybody, I keep saying almost everybody, but everybody we've had on has been very upfront, very personable, very genuine mm-hmm. people. Yeah. And I think it's because we've had an opportunity to kind of peel back the layer of where have you been? What have you done? But, that's where I think, people can relate to hopefully some of the things that we're sharing on this show and the different shows is, there's real people out there doing the real work, and it's hard, but you got to do the work. And if you do the work, it's eventually going to pay off,
Yeah. That was a great one. The in the trenches, we're going to have more of those this year too. Going to number 10, probably a sweet spot for me, the PRM debate. Are you a believer? I don't have to reiterate my feelings on this, but, without process and without being able to, ingrain your PRM solution into your partners, it's a wasted tool. You got to utilize it. It's such a important tool. Exactly. It's a tool I think you should bring on immediately if you're building a program. Start small, but build smart. And then, you want to measure actions, not just logins. You want to make sure that the partners are going in and utilizing the enablement tools, the documentation, the deal registration. That's like the lifeblood there of the partner portal, right? Because it's just so important to an organization to, be able to have that communication. And a lot of sales organizations and, companies in general probably don't believe PRM is that big of a deal. But if you talk to executives like us, they do feel it's important. It's so critical to help because it measures every aspect of what you're doing with the partners.
Yeah.
Every matrix, deal registrations, time in, sales cycle, like the close rates, the win-loss rates, everything you can imagine. The PRM helps to establish that and to give you that valuable, rich executive level reporting that you need to, I hate to say it, prove your worth and your job, and prove that the channel is working. I think a lot of times, and this has been a theme throughout all of our shows, like I think executives set unrealistic expectations for channel and expect instant deals and success immediately, which it isn't. A channel program takes 12 to 18 months to really start to flow. And it's got to be a patient ride, and you got to have everybody involved, and you need all the pieces and parts in place. And PRM, in my opinion, most important one. And I really, the thing that I love about this show, and I'm going to let you talk. I love that you didn't really have a PRM opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's first of all, set the context here. So the show was episode 8, and it was called "Are You a Believer?" And the reason we chose that name was I was kind of on the fence, and I played devil's advocate. So when you listen to it, I took a very kind of I don't want to say argumentative, but I took a very defensive approach to, like, why do you need this? Like, you don't really need this. You can do X, Y, and Z, or you could do this and get away with it. And the whole point was, can you establish the legitimacy of having a PRM? And what I found interesting is, are you a believer? Obviously, you're definitely a believer, and it was about, will I actually cross over? And through that episode, and since then, even other episodes, I've seen the pieces come in. It came up in the Von Mordecai, where we were talking about PRMs and how they work, and we talked about intro and their. So what I took away from this was, first of all, number one, PRMs without a process are just shelfware. So you got to be careful, right? So you got to be really understanding of how you're trying to use it, and then have a plan and then execute it. And I think one of the takeaways that I had from you was start simple and then grow smart. In other words, don't try to overcomplicate what you're trying to do with PRM, but start out simple, and then you can grow and be smart with it. And I think from an actionable piece, which I'm all about, is action and takeaways, is you want to be able to measure your engagement, not just who's logging into it, which is why you love the ability to drive marketing information or the LMS stuff. Like, so you want to drive engagement with it, not just if they've logged into it and registered a deal. Right. So that was my 3 things, which, again, it was all about you trying to, like, prove to me, which, again, I thought that was a great approach to the show, because I wasn't. I mean, I really wasn't. I wasn't like, I'm not really sold on a PRM. But anyway,
I don't think you knew enough about what a PRM really offers, and just because of my experience in implementing PRMs over, the past 10 years, and how important I find, that tool set, I was able to influence you, because you really haven't you haven't walked into a program from scratch to build it out that way. You've walked into programs that are established and maybe have something, like a Fidelity channel, whatever. I forget the one that we had there was crap anyway. But yeah, so I mean, like, you didn't have that experience of getting in and building it and seeing what it can do. And now you understand it. And I think that's good, because if you're out in the field talking to people and clients, that's a pretty important part of what the program is trying to.
Well, it's something, because it gives you the opportunity to go guide and drive the business, but also align it back to a CRO or to whoever's driving the overall, revenue operations. You need to be able to do that so that you can best manage the channel, the partners, and the alliances to get the most out of them from a programmatic perspective. So 100% agree. And like I said, I came out of that going, yeah, I get it now. And what you just said is spot on. I mean, I've gone in, a lot of programs were already half started, half assed, or just never fully executed or implemented properly. So,
yeah. Okay. Awesome. That was a great one. Dear and dear to my heart. Number 11, cloud to AI lessons with a very good friend of mine and yours, Michelle Etherton, who's with Liminal, which is a super cool AI security company. Look, I met Michelle couple of years back at the first Catalyst that partnership leaders had. She gave a talk about AWS and how she was one of the original AWS employees and built out that alliance program and was very successful. And I was like blown away by the story. And I reached out to just gain knowledge from her, right? And we've become friends. And she was so gracious to be on our ninth episode. She was our first guest, actually. She was the number
Yeah.
one guest because we were like trying to do this on our own. We were like, hey, why don't we have guests? But she basically had a lot of great takeaways, like don't repeat cloud go-to-market mistakes. She's learned in her past. Profile partners early. And I've helped her a lot since she got into the cybersecurity space with the cybersecurity resellers because she wasn't really familiar. So I stepped in and helped her and gave her like a guide on who's who and what to do and who to talk to and how to maneuver with them because she really likes to profile and understand how to get to those important people in the partnerships. And then I like educate before pitching, just you got to enable. I think enablement is huge, and she was very, very good at explaining that because that's how they built that AWS program.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, playbooks. I mean, that having her on as first guest, there were like three divergences that took place. One was she was the first guest where we got this really cool, unique perspective of her experience in the market. Second was, the AI piece and cloud and what's going on there and how fast it was proliferating, escalating, right? The velocity. And then this third piece, which was, tying it back to some of the other kind of core things, playbooks. We've talked a lot about that, right? And having the ability to go do things at work. There's nuances to it because not every playbook is going to work at every place, but if you can use them as a framework, I think that's great. But yeah, I was super impressed with what she was doing, what she had done. We later found out that she knew another guest that we had on, Rob Cohen, because they had worked at AWS. And look, I say it all the time. First of all, it's a small world. It's an even smaller industry, and you're going to run into people that know people. So make sure you do the right things. Be honest, be genuine, but yeah, she was amazing. But I did like that teach before you pitch, right? Seek first to understand, be understood kind of thing. So
that's your thing. Yeah, that's right. You related to that. Yeah. But Michelle, great show. Thanks for being our first guest too. You're near and dear in our heart and love to have you on again at some time. All right.
We'll have to get her
12.
We'll have to get her
What's that?
We'll have to get her a special gift or something for being the first. Now that we look in hindsight, right? So, but anyway, number 12.
Number 12, fractional leaders with Craig Gleason. That's near and dear to both our hearts because we're both doing that. I'll let you kind of talk about this one because Craig's your buddy, and that was a really kind of interesting show to talk to him about because all three of us were like mind meld with our relation or our operations, I should say.
Well, and it was the whole correlation of how things have the whole convergence of where we were. And I've known Craig, God, probably 18, 20 years. And again, the whole story that we talked, the backstory was we met and I was partnered with EMC. He was another partner with EMC. And there was an opportunity for us to kind of do things together, which ecosystem, right? We're talking like 2007, 2008 timeframe. It was ecosystem play, so you had this, EMC documental platform and we're a solution and we were two ISVs, but yet we had the ability to do something together that added even more value to the platform, so to speak. But what I found really super cool and interesting is we talked about the rise of the fractional leadership because I had started a fractional channel and I had been doing it and then got connected with him because I saw what he was doing. And then realized I had this bizarre epiphany. I was like, holy crap, like I'm like almost a year to 15 months behind him. So as he was going through and having this learning curve of doing things with fractional, I was experiencing the same things, but he had already been through it. And he had gotten to a point where his business kind of like matured to a level where he reset it and how he was actually working with different partners. Plus he narrowed his company right now is hyper focused around AWS. And when I think back, this was episode 14?
Yeah.
He was talking about how AWS is going to go through a reset. And what he was building was this working with AWS because they're going to thin some of their partner stuff, and they're going to have people that don't know how to work with partners, and they're going to be able to lean in as a fractional partner to AWS to help these sales reps and the team. And that's kind of what happened. Like not even what 9 months later. So really, really super cool. But I will say the things that I took away from that: one, Craig's great guy, another down to earth, salt of the earth kind of guy. And I joked with him, even though he's from Canada, salt of the earth guy. But it was all about. I love my brothers from the north, man. My brother-in-law's originally from Montreal, so. But fractional is fast, it's focused, and it can be flexible, and that's a big advantage in the market today. You also have to. The other takeaway that I had was, you need to set your boundaries to protect the value and balance what you're doing, so that you don't, number one, burn yourself out or not deliver on what you say you can do.
Right.
And then I guess the third would be, the ability to, scope out what you're trying to do and drive towards outcomes, right? Because driving towards the outcomes gives you clarity with your execution, right?
For sure.
Or something along those lines. But yeah, anyway, super impressed with that. But yeah, it was another. I remember, what did I do? I did some kind of a weird Liam Neeson parody. Like I have a simple set of skills, and you need to deliver. But anyway, so now that was an episode.
That's our top 12. Let's kind of wrap up now, because we're really long. But I'm okay with that, because I think we wanted to really just talk freely here. Well, what's your biggest surprise from 2025 doing the show? What was your number one biggest surprise?
Wow, my biggest surprise from doing the show. It's well, first of all, what I learned. The takeaways for me were the realization of things that I've done or things that I was doing and didn't realize the programs behind it. I kind of, when we were talking about this, I wanted to kind of organize my thoughts, because I usually do my top 3, but there were like 5 takeaways from the themes of the shows that we did. First of all, I felt that it helped me personally from a growth perspective. I've got a newfound, like I've always respected you and working with you, but I have a newfound respect and appreciation, and I mean this sincerely. I really do. I have a newfound respect and appreciation for the work that you've done and the work that you do, and your perspective. And I've shared this on some earlier shows. I love to go figure things out and solve problems. That's always been. I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. And I like to find new things. And what I was amazed with is things that I would find and start to do. You would, I would share that with you, and then you would take it to like another level. Like you would amplify it, and you would raise it, and it made me feel, it made me feel better. Like, wow, like this, what I was doing was good, but boy, it could be great. Like then there's a book good.
Thank you. I think my biggest surprise is, number one, how, I don't want to say easy it was to record 45 shows, but like, it just was not like breaking a sweat. I felt like it was so natural. Right. And I think, kind of adding to what you just said about me, like, I think we both have this relationship where we bounce ideas off each other, and we become better. Each one of us becomes better because of it. You have made me so much better this year doing this show, doing some of the projects that we're working on right now, and helping me through that. And, it's just, you're my, what is it? Ford and Ferrari, or no, what was it? What was
I like them. I did like them.
Ferrari, like the guys in that movie. But I think the biggest surprise is how it just felt like this wasn't hard, and it's natural, and we're good at it. And having the response from some of our fans, and shout out to again Catherine K. Wood and some of the other fans, just being able to influence them, and that means a lot. That's a really, really good feeling. So
it's humbling, man. It really is, John. I mean, it's, like I said, just having people say, hey, wow, listen to what you guys did. And, it was helpful, or it was meaningful, or, there was a couple of people made comments like, wow, these guys are really laid back. And that's the other point. Like we tried to have a show where it's like, if you and I have a conversation, like we jump on with people like Ross or Nick or Helene, and we're having a conversation. Like I would have a conversation with anybody.
Not
and it's
overcomplicated, simplified,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, look, man, I completely enjoyed this. I know
Yeah.
there's I'll call it the five trends that I went back and I played around with AI a little bit, right? But the five
Really?
trends from our
A
shows were
little?
layoffs, loyalty, and leadership. I got to do my three: layoffs,
Mhm.
loyalty, and leadership. That's
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up here. I think we have 3-part theme to take into like 2026. You want to go over those three? Yeah.
well. So, actually, I'm like, you kind of caught me there. Um,
Yeah, AI is
well,
an amplifier, not a replacement. I think that's number one. Like, I think we really are going to expand upon AI as a way to amplify your programs. Um, Ecosystems equal leverage, and then execution still wins. You're if you're not executing, you're not doing anything. You're gonna sit and stuck in the mud, and it won't work. You got to execute. I think that's one of the things with both of us. We're really good at execution. We don't sit and wait. We want to go after it and get it, and we execute, right? And that's huge to take away for 2026.
so when I looked at 26, and I kind of extrapolated, me, I can never just leave it simple, but our
Mm-hmm.
continued focus on AI and the role it's going to play in channel without
Yep.
losing that human connection.
Yep.
Because I think that's the piece that keeps coming up, and I keep hearing everything said it's going to replace jobs, but you still need people that know AI to actually leverage the AI. I think reinforcing the trust and the co-sell alignment. Co-selling isn't dead; it's just decentralized.
Yeah.
I think I want to figure out how do we talk about that a little bit more so that we can understand that co-sell orchestration that's happening across the marketplaces, agencies, and brokers and all that, because it isn't dead, it's just evolved, and it from working with a couple, a handful of the partners you're working with now. I mean, you have to work with them has
Yeah.
evolved, right?
Oh yeah.
And a lot of businesses don't get that. And I would say the last is, really just re-emphasizing that I think our podcast, right, focusing it as a tactical strategic resource for channel professionals,
For sure.
um, and having more takeaways. We're going to look to do a lot more shorts. We're going to look to do a little bit more of pushing out some
Mm-hmm.
composites of data and stuff like that. But that, for me, in 26, I know we had that kind of that quick list, but then I kept thinking about it, like I want to be able to have a checklist, have a reference list. Like I'm big into the infographics right now, but keeping them simple because they can get really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would be my three.
And I think coming up in the new year, we're going to have some sponsorship, which is important. Help to kind of make the show a lot more efficient and better.
And you got a hat too, man. I got your
I'm
hat
going
too.
to get a hat.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap up. If you're out there listening, hey, go and subscribe to the podcast. We release every Tuesday. Drop us a review. We're on LinkedIn. You could post and comment on LinkedIn. And then if you have a great episode from 2025 you want to talk to us about, DM us. We'd love to have our listeners on. We have a website, www.channelsurfers.com. There's a contact us page. You can fill out a form or email us directly from there, and we'd love to hear from you. So if you're out there listening, please go out and do all those things and keep the support going. It's amazing. But until our next show, Jeff, I think we did a great job in 2025 and bigger things in 2026.
I'm excited, man. I think. Oh, and I'll just add, like, I think one of the things we're going to try to do this year is take the show on the road.
Yes,
Try to do it at an event or two. So I think that'll be kind of fun. And yeah, and again, taking it out to the people, the trenches,
to the
getting
people.
people right. Go meet them where they are. Like I tell
Right.
people in sales, you go meet the customer where they are.
Organize a chug and hug too. That's what we got to do. All right, till our next show.